Hi guys. We are going to be talking about a really awesome genre today, realistic fiction. Realistic fiction is a book that is fiction, so it is make-believe, and it's on the fiction side of our library, but it sounds like it could be real. So the way the author writes about the characters, they sound like they could be real people doing real things in a real life place. Our realistic fiction book that we're going to read today is called Owl Moon, and this is by Jane Yolen, and the illustrator is John Schroeder. Also, you'll see it's a Caldecott Award-winning book, which means it won for Best Pictures of the Year. So pay close attention to the beautiful pictures in this book. And as we read, think about how this might be something that could happen in real life. Maybe it's something you could even see yourself doing. It was late one winter night, long past my bedtime, when Pa and I went owling. There was no wind. The trees stood still as giant statues, and the moon was so bright that the sky seemed to shine. Somewhere behind us a train whistle blew, long and low, like a sad, sad song. Hmm, it says they're going owling. Have you ever heard of owling before? Wonder what that is. We'll have to see. I could hear it through the woolen cap Pa had pulled down over my ears. A farm dog answered the train, and a second dog joined in. They sang out, trains and dogs, for a real long time, and when their voices faded away, it was quiet as a dream, and we walked on through the woods, Pa and I. Could you really walk through the woods with your dad? That's realistic, right? Our feet crunched over the crisp snow, and little gray footprints followed us. Pa made a long shadow, but mine was short and round, and I had to run after him every now and then to keep up, and my short, round shadow bumped after me. But I never called out. If you go owling, you have to be quiet. That's what Pa always says. I had been waiting to go owling with Pa for a long, long time. We reached the line of pine trees, black and pointy against the sky, and Pa held up his hand. I stopped right where I was and waited. He looked up, as if searching the stars, as if reading a map up there. The moon made his face into a silver mask, and then he called, "Hoo hoo hoo hoo," the sound of a great horned owl. "Hoo hoo 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 hoo." Oh, I might know what owling is. Do you think they're going to woods to look for an owl? I bet that's what they're doing. Again he called out, and again, and after each call he was silent, and for a moment we both listened. But there was no answer. Pa shrugged, and I shrugged. It was not disappointed. My brothers all said, sometimes there's an owl, and sometimes there isn't. We walked on. I could feel the cold, as if someone's icy hand was palmed down on my back, and my nose and the top of my cheeks felt cold and hot at the same time. But I never said a word. If you go owling, you have to be quiet, and you have to make your own heat. We went into the woods. The shadows were the blackest things I had ever seen. They stained the white snow, and my mouth felt furry, for the scarf over it was wet and warm. I didn't ask what kind of things hide behind black trees in the middle of the night. If you go owling, you have to be brave. Then we came to a clearing in the dark woods. The moon was high above us. It seemed to fit exactly over the center of the clearing, and the snow below it was whiter than milk in a cereal bowl. I sighed, and Pa held up his hand at the sound. I put my mittens over the scarf over my mouth, and I listened hard. And Pa called, "Woo hoo, woo hoo, woo hoo, woo hoo, woo hoo, woo hoo." I listened, and I looked so hard my ears hurt, and my eyes got cloudy with the cold. Pa raised his face to call out again, but before he could open his mouth, an echo came through the trees. Woo hoo, woo hoo, woo hoo. What do you think is making that echo? Maybe they found an owl. Let's see. Pa almost smiled, and then he called back, "Woo, woo, 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 woo," just as if he and the owl were talking about supper, or about the woods, or the moon, or the cold. I took my mittens off, my scarf off my mouth, and I almost smiled too. The owl call came closer from high up in the trees on the edge of the meadow. Nothing in the meadow moved, and all of a sudden an owl shadow, part of a big tree, lifted off and flew right over us. We watched silently, with heat in our mouths, the heat of those words we had not spoken. The shadow hooted again. Do you see him up here? It's the owl shadow. They found an owl. Pa turned on his big flashlight and caught the owl just as it was landing on a branch. For 1 minute, 3 minutes, maybe even 100 minutes, we stared at one another. And then the owl pumped its great wings and lifted off the branch like a shadow without a sound, and it flew back into the forest. "Time to go home," Pa said to me. I knew then I could talk. I could even laugh out loud. But I was quiet as a shadow as we walked home. When you go owling, you don't need words or warm or anything but hope. That's what Pa says. The kind of hope that flies on silent wings under a shining owl moon. The end. I love that story. I love the part where they see the owl. So this was a realistic fiction genre story. Owl Moon is a story that sounds like it could happen in real life. You really could go in the woods and look for an owl and possibly see one. See you next time.